Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 and the last day of this awesome 3-day live masterclass, helping you to learn the secret strategies that I've developed over the last 6 years with my 2 beautiful Springer Spaniels. And yeah, going from stress, worry, just always in and out with the vets, not confident at all, to with very not well dogs either. They definitely didn't exude what I would have called optimal health, and they were very young. So yeah, it definitely wasn't going to be the life that they have experienced in the last 6 years if I hadn't made drastic changes back then. And like I say, they're happy, they're relaxed, they enjoy their life, they're just a pleasure to be with. The behavior, I mean, I used to have all sorts of problems with behavior, particularly with Joey, and all of that. Just with the right diet, they feel better. And so yeah, they feel better, so they behave better. Then, you know, they're just naturally quiet. They're just naturally quiet. Like in the wild, if you look at animals in the wild, they're just happily going about their business. They're not carrying the worries of the world on their shoulders like you see a lot of dogs. I mean, they, you know, I've met dogs that constantly bark, they're chased, you know, they're always in your face, they want attention 100% of the time, they've got all sorts of weird behaviors, they're not great around other dogs. You know, there's all sorts of problems that, you know, I see that is not natural for a dog. And so a lot of those things can be sorted out by giving them an optimal lifestyle, and that would begin with diet. Definitely would begin with diet, because if they're not eating the right foods, their body won't be functioning properly, and you know, inevitably when they exhibit strange behavior, often that's linked to pain. Obviously a dog can't tell you, and a dog doesn't actually understand the energy that's moving through it anyway, so it would just behave odd. I know if Joey or Sky have overeaten, because they will act odd. They'll suddenly be around my legs, or they'll be, you know, they won't be able to settle. And that's, you know, I've given them, they've either swallowed something strangely, or it's, you know, stuck in the tube somewhere, and this is me interpreting, or like I say, they just feel uncomfortable, and that will be a time when they just don't settle properly. But I know how to adjust it. and I don't need a vet to tell me. Okay, so the agenda for today was really to go through questions that I've been receiving from people via email, and I would like to go through the other steps. This obviously has covered one step. The 7-day challenge and the workbook goes through one step of a 9-step course that I've developed that will take you from zero, really understanding zero. If you understand some, it will take you to a deeper level, but it is designed around taking you from sick pet to healthy, thriving pet in a matter of 90 days, with me on hand the whole journey, so you can pick me up or put me down as much as you want me to. And I've designed 3 different levels to cater for if you want, you know, if you want to go it alone, pretty much, then I've provided the information that you can basically just have it, you know, have it there. We'll still provide a community where you can go and chat with other people going through the process, because that can be valuable, to share, you know, breakthroughs and what's working for you and what's not working, and just see different dogs going through the whole process. You learn from everybody's experience can help yours, and it can help your knowledge, so that if it doesn't necessarily relate to you at that particular time, further down the line you might experience something more like they are. So that works really, really well. And then what we do, anyway, I'll go into that more towards the end. So we'll just cover the content right now. So let's start with the questions. So obviously the first question is one I'm asked all the time, and that's, how long does it take? Well, like I say, that you experience, as soon as you stop putting in the main issue, which is generally the incorrect foods, incorrect treats, generally anything that's going into the body, is the main source of disease. There can be other contributors, which obviously there are. The vaccinations can have a reaction on certain dogs, no reaction on other dogs. Flea and worm treatments can cause a lot of illness with some dogs and not other dogs. I'm trying to think of other things. It can, obviously, if they're on medications, oh my gosh, there's certain medications that I see serious problems with dogs, that it's always like a poke quill, and that's that one I see. And I've actually seen a bald dog recently that had been given that particular, and prednisone, that's another one that comes up all the time. So I think they're for allergies. But anyway, I've seen pictures of dogs that are literally red raw, no fur left at all. It makes you want to cry to just see that poor dog and what it must be going through. But anyway, it's actually all, you know, you can correct that quite easily, little by little, with some situation like that. Anyway, so how long does it take? So there is no answer to that. It will depend how your dog's body responds to the new food, what the history is, how much medication, how much vaccination, how much chemical treatments, you know, fleas and wormers, that type of thing. Their body's been I'm trying to think of the word, but it had those products in it, and then it will depend on how that dog's body will respond. The younger the dog, generally, the sooner the body, you know, the sooner you get, you know, the sooner it can clean itself up. And basically what happens is, it's like a detox program. So you would actually put the dogs on a much lighter diet, or fasting, but you'd need to prepare the dog so that it was ready for fasting, and then, like you say, you'd monitor it. And you know, if sometimes the symptoms can get painful, so yeah, like I've got a client at the moment that's experiencing the toenails, that the dog's body is detoxing through the toenail. So and obviously, if a toenail comes off, it's a fantastic opportunity for the body to get rid of any chemicals or anything that it doesn't want inside it. My experience when it was Sky and Joey, particularly Sky, she got like a little lump that developed on the side. In fact, it started, like, people would actually say, oh, I think Sky's got a tick on her. So it started really small, but like a little knobbly thing, and then that just grew and grew. When I changed the diet, she actually bit that at one point, and it popped like a spot, and it had like white stuff, like, you know, when you're a teenager and you squeeze your spots and white sort of stuff comes out. And that was obviously how Sky's body stored the toxins. And then, like I say, she was fortunate enough, like I say, she nibbled it away, and then, like I say, that was gone. Whereas, you know, historically, any lump or bump, it would be an immediate panic, and straight to the vets, and they would find some sort of way of syringing it, or something that would cost a fortune, or even worse still, if they started to actually anaesthetize them to take out, you know, to investigate the lump first. But anyway, all it is the way that particular body has decided it's going to deal with its toxic load. And yeah, our bodies are amazing. They totally are amazing, and the dogs are just as amazing. So yeah, so depending on how, like I say, a lot of dogs will detox through the eyes, so you'll get runny eyes, ears, you'll get gunky, dirty ears. if the dog suddenly starts smelling, that's where, you know, it's coming through the body and out of the skin. Anal glands, obviously, that's another area. I certainly know if Sky eats too much, that's an area I can smell that, like, yeah, there's just a smell that I know if she's eaten too much or she's found some bone out, you know, in the fields. But I never have to worry because I've got the tools, and I know how to use them to counteract anything that they do. You know, that I'm happy for them to live a dog life, and if they want to find a bone, a manky old bone in the field and eat it and have a tummy ache that day, that's their choice. And you know, the truth is, if I tried to take it off them anyway, they wouldn't let me, or they wouldn't be happy about it. They wouldn't give it to me generally. Oh yeah, here's this bone. Anyway, so yeah, so each dog will detox in its own special way. But what you do know is, once you know that you're actually feeding correctly, and like say, and bringing in these lighter days, which are the fruit days, I would say optimal are the fruit days. If you can't fast, and certainly if you're going from scratch, then we want to ease the dog into a sort of lighter lifestyle, lighter feeding lifestyle. And I would definitely start with fruits, and the more watery fruits the better. So definitely, like, watermelon is amazing in the season. What else? Mangoes, they love mangoes. Papaya, they love papayas. Yeah, well, there isn't a fruit on the planet, but the heavier fruits, like the bananas that I was mentioning the other day, that they would be used if the dog's starting to scavenge but still needs the help of the fruit days with its detox process. So yeah, you can utilize the fruits, and then obviously if it suddenly started getting extreme, they did start, like, you know, if it was very, very uncomfortable for the dog, had ear problems as a result of the gunk slow coming out, or, you know, suddenly eye problems, or, you know, and if the dog's, you know, sometimes the dog's skin can go very, very red, where it's actually again coming through the skin, and that's again chemical, it's acid coming through the skin, which is what causes the redness. So, but obviously it's a really awesome sign. But as long as you know that you've lightened up the diet and that the body's going through that process, you don't need to panic. It will just, if it gets uncomfortable for you or the dog, then we can just back up and we can have heavier, so we could start introducing some bananas, or we would go on to a meat day, and that would completely slow the whole process down. So you take it at yours and your dog's pace, and like I say, and you've got the tools and you know how it works, and you can, you know, up the pace and down the pace. I would 100% say you'll notice differences in energy within a week of changing the diet. But again, depending on the chemical, you know, how much actual toxicity is in the body, that may take time. Like I say, with my experience, 6 years on, mine are still getting healthier and healthier. Whereas, you know, when they were a year into it, well, 6 months into it, I didn't think they could, you know, I thought, oh my God, you know, I'd never experienced a dog so, you know, the dog's so healthy and happy, and, you know, and life was just so easy. You know, I wasn't having to constantly worry about, you know, was there an underlying problem that I'd be, you know, having to rush them to the vet or something. So yeah, so they actually just get healthier and healthier. It's just, you don't think they can get any healthier, and then they do. Like, you know, anyway, I said that the other day. I look at particularly Joey's coat at the moment. It is like satin. It literally is like satin. It feels like satin, and it actually, you know, and it feels like satin, and it's got that shiny shine to it. And like I say, it's dark brown. Like, I've never seen him so dark. So they just get better and better. So we're 6 years on, and like I say, there's definitely, I haven't always been perfect. And what is perfect? Again, you know, who knows what's perfect? In my mind, I think the perfect is to do loads and loads of fasting. But you know, they're healthy dogs, and they're just getting healthier and healthier. And like I say, I presently feed more meat days than I do fruit days, and that I would definitely say is not necessarily optimal, but hey, who knows? I'm keeping it to a minimum level. If they exhibit any, you know, if I start noticing anything like it signs that they've been overfed, then obviously I'll change, add a fasting day, or go to fruits. At this time of year, I tend not to do so much fruits because there's not the availability, and it's freezing here in the UK. We've had at least 2 weeks of it being barely above freezing, and some days we've been like -6, -5, which I know some countries you've probably got that's nothing, but for us in the UK that just is like freezing. And if I was feeding them fruits, a bit like when I eat my fruit, I can end up shivering on those days, and the dogs will, particularly at night time when the temperatures really plummet. If I'm feeding fruit, they will be shivery and they would be needing coats on when they went to bed. So I do find in the winter that they eat a lot more meat, and then in the summer months we feed a lot more fruit. So, and like I say, I do it to suit myself and the availability of fruit and the cost of fruit. And from my experience, the bananas are relatively cheap to feed, and you know, and they're easy, and the dogs love them. So when we're on fruit, I feed a lot of bananas. But you know, they'll always want my grapes and my mangoes and my strawberries, and you know, there isn't anything that I eat that they don't want. Even oranges, they'll eat my oranges given a chance. So yeah, so I use the foods to suit them. But again, back to the question with how long does it take? You will notice improvements within a week with their energy, even if they're quite sick. But then going, sorry, lots of talking. When you move, by the time you get to the 90 days, you know, I'll encourage you to take pictures before and after, and they will be a very different dog to the dog that started 3 months earlier. And but that will, like I say, just keep getting better and better. When you think they can't get any healthier, they do. So so yeah, and you'll have the tools to take them forward with that, with the confidence, and to know when, you know, I have had experience still to go to vet. I remember there's been a couple of times. One was definitely a false alarm. Joey historically had grass seeds. In the summer months, he would be shaking his head. And then I'm trying to think how long ago it was. I think it was 3 years ago. We were out on a walk. It was June when the grass seeds are just sprouting. And we'd been out in the morning and he'd got quite wet, and he'd started shaking his head. And yeah, like I had always associated with when he'd got a grass seed in there. And so I literally drove I walked them very early, so it was like 7 o'clock, 7:30 by the time I had finished my walk. So I actually drove to the vets on my way home from this walk, and then just sat outside until they were open. And then they looked down his ear and everything, and they couldn't see anything. And I came, and by that time, again, we'd waited outside for the best part of an hour. So by the time he had actually slowly slowed down, shaking his head, and yeah, it turned out that it was actually overfeeding. I'd actually fed him too much, and that he was shaking. That was a typical example of overfeeding, where he shakes his head. So it made me wonder, when I'd taken them in, and only Joey, when I'd taken him in, I'd had at least 2 occasions where I'd taken them into the vet. And I always thought it was a bit odd that they brought out the so-called grass seeds in a little pot for me to actually, there's the grass seeds that we took out of his ear. But it did make me think, after that experience, did he really actually have grass seeds, or or was it, or was it actually, and what's the chance of these vets finding these seeds? But anyway, who knows? It just made me really question the 2 times where it cost me a lot of money for him to be anaesthetized and supposedly have these seeds taken out of his ear, and he had exhibited no different signs and symptoms to the year where they actually looked down his ear. There wasn't anything there. I took him home, and slowly but surely he stopped shaking his head. And it, like I say, I had fasted him the week before. He'd had 5 days. I've been traveling, so he'd had 5 days of fasting, and then of course he'd got thin, so I was no doubt thinking, oh, I better get a bit more meat into him, and he didn't need it. His body didn't want it, so that was my lesson. Anyway, so yeah, so how long does it take? You will see, they will just get better and better once you implement the feeding routines and the other lifestyle changes. They will, within 3 months, you will know that it's working. And then, if they're exhibiting serious illness, then that will be a journey. But yeah, some of them, it's a very, very quick turnaround. Others, it's a rocky road. And from my experience, it very much depends how many vaccinations they've had, how much chemical treatments their bodies have have exhibited, food you fed. Like mine had always been raw fed, be it was rubbish raw. In hindsight, it was full of fat, so it was rubbish raw. But they had pretty much all their lives. I'd played around with the kibble, but they weren't interested in it. And I'd played around with Lily's, which in the UK is a homemade tinned food. At one point, they went through a phase of liking that. That was expensive. That was £1.50 for a tin, and they were both needing 2 tins of that a day each. So I think it's working out something like £150 a week. So I was glad when they got fed up with that one. So they weren't subjected. They did have their puppy vaccinations, and they had all sorts of tablets when they were puppies. Joey's had lungworm at 1 year old, and pneumonia, which again, I realised with hindsight, he was actually, the reason I took him to the vet was because he decided he wasn't eating, and he hadn't eaten from the Friday through to the Monday. And with hindsight, that was him giving his own body a chance to rest and fast. But I didn't see it at that point. He ended up going to the vets for 24 hours where they didn't have a clue what was wrong with him. Then he went to the specialists and spent overnight there. It cost me £3,000, but I think he actually stayed for 2 nights, and it didn't. I had insurance, but yeah, that was something that if I knew what I knew now, he wouldn't have gone, and all of that money. So and they basically said it was pneumonia, and supposedly had this lungworm, and then I had to put these special flea medicines into them, both of them, because as far as they were concerned, if he had this lungworm, if he had it, then Sky apparently had it. Anyway, like I say, I would deal with that completely different now, because I just would. So I know differently. His body would deal with that. So anyway, so that's that. They will improve. It may be a slower journey for some, depending on their history, and faster for others. For me, Sky and her tummy was pretty, she was a different dog in 3 months. Okay, can I feed only meat? The answer to that is yes, but I would then be saying you would be wanting to do regular fasting. Yeah, so that would be the scenario where I would be recommending that you feed today, have tomorrow no food, and then feed again the next day. And if you prefer to feed 2 meals a day, then that's fine. They just have a meat day and a fast day, meat day and a fast day. And that would work really, really well. That was the way I worked at the beginning, because I just wasn't totally on board. The dogs didn't really like fruit in the beginning, and I didn't particularly like the whole spending hours preparing sweet potatoes, and seeing it just coming out the other end, so I just opted for the fasting route instead, and yeah, so that worked for us. Okay, and then the other thing, can I feed only fruit? And the answer to that is yes, you can, but you'd need to be very watchful, because from my experience, they will scavenge on fruit, and often if they don't necessarily have access to sort of like bones and things out in the wild on walks and things, you may find that they resort to eating dirt and poop eaters and that type of thing, and my theory is that their body is wanting something else. And obviously, like I say, we do not recognize now, having understood that their physiology is 99.999% wolf, and they do live mainly on meat, like, you know, whole prey. So you would need to be watching for how your dog did on fruit, and I would, and like say, if they acted really, really hungry, or they started eating weird things, that's when you'd know that you'd bring in a meat day, and then you'd watch to see how that changed that behavior, and you'd adjust accordingly. So yeah, and I do encourage people. A lot of people, like, you know, do that now, particularly with old dogs, where, you know, they do better on a much lighter diet. And yeah, I would encourage people to go with fruit until they notice their dog either really scavenging or starting to eat weird things, then add a meat day, and then go back to the fruit. And yeah, it works well, particularly with the older ones, and the young ones will do well on that as well. How often should I fast? So at least once a week for 48 hours. That would be, you know, that would be ideal, and would add many years of health and longevity to a dog's life, just doing that one little habit. If you're raw feeding, and obviously ideally raw feeding without the packet stuff, because that's a whole subject in my course, is what goes into commercial pet foods, and you really don't want to be buying the packet stuff. It just is the waste from the human meat market that is then minced and packaged up as raw food, and it just isn't food. It's fat, and you know, it's just whatever they can't make into burgers, or, you know, like I say, burgers are the last resort, so the quality of burger meat is often, I wouldn't even feed that to my dog. So what goes into the raw pet food is pretty awful. I'm not saying all of it, because you do get some farms that have their own animals, but more often than not, that's a butcher's selling to humans, and then they're mincing up the waste, which they would otherwise have to pay companies to take that waste away, and instead they're using it, mincing it up, and calling it pet food. So I just wouldn't go there. So go to the supermarket, buy the chicken, go to the supermarket, buy the chicken legs or the whole chicken, and that's what you feed. Take the skin off, and if you can see any white bits of fat, cut that off, and then cut that into, you know, you don't even have to cut it up. If you've got a Labrador or anything above, feed the whole chicken carcass, and you watch how much they enjoy pulling that apart and eating it. If they're anything smaller, then go for those chicken legs, take the skin off, look for any white bits that can cut off any excess fat, and then just watch them trail that around the room. Stick them in a crate. Okay, so that's that. So fasting, yeah, minimum of once a week. And if if it warms to you, a really, really, really good way of getting the dog, obviously a longer fast initially if you're struggling with any symptoms, then a longer fast, 5 days. It depends what you can cope with yourself, but 5 days, if they had, if they had all health problems in any way, I would do 5 days, then pop them on a couple of days of fruit, and then start another 5 days of fast, and then see where you're at. And obesity, fasting is brilliant for turning that around as well. So and that's what I would do with an obese dog, is I would do, well, you could either go for something like 14 days on watermelon, feeding watermelon, and that obviously you can go obviously for 30 days, but 14 days you'd notice a difference in an obese dog on watermelon. And if you found that easier than doing like 5 days of fasting, 2 days of fruit, and then another 5 days of fasting, then that would be your way with that. But yeah, so fasting minimum of 48 hours in a week, and then if you want to feed the way I did, that's an awesome way. So you literally have meat one day, fast another day. That's a really, really good way of and would mimic the wild very closely, I would guess. Okay, should I feed organs? So if you're feeding whole chickens, the organs are tucked up in the rib cage. It's actually on the spine bone, inside. You'd have to know where it is, and they're very, very small. But I wouldn't go buying huge amounts of organs. I feed organs because they're in the rabbits that I buy and the pheasants that I buy. Obviously, I'm encouraging you to buy chicken legs, and so there's no organ meat with those. And I wouldn't worry about it, because from my watching wolf videos, and a pack kills a prey, the kingpins of the head wolves will be the ones that get first pickings, and they will no doubt pick the organs and eat those. And then the ones sitting on the side, the more humble wolves in the pack, then they would actually get access to the bones and the meat and what's left. So I personally, I've fed only chicken legs for many months. If it's the end of the season and there's no shooting and I haven't got any access, or I'm traveling and I've only got access to supermarket and can't access my gamekeepers because I haven't necessarily got access to my freezer, then I would just go in, and I've definitely fed chicken legs for months at a time, and they're perfectly fine. And like I say, it's not, I would be watching, because if I suddenly thought they were scavenging or were acting particularly hungry, that would be a warning light to go on for me, and I would then be thinking, what am I doing differently? But no difference at all. So I would confidently I would confidently say that meat and bone is essential. Meat and bone particularly, that if they miss out on eating bone, you will notice, because if there's too much meat, they'll have diarrhea. They need a nice mix of bone. It's actually, often shop bought chickens can actually have a lot of meat on it, and compared to the bone, which wouldn't be the case if it was a wild chicken, but it's fed up for human consumption, and so they fatten them up, which can often be too much meat for a dog. So you need to monitor that too, because I used to actually cut off some chicken breasts, and my other half still eats meat, and he would eat those chicken breasts. Or when I was feeding the cats, they loved the chicken breasts, and with cats you don't have to worry quite so much about the bone. They tend to be fine on the breast. And I again, with my cats, I knew when they needed bone. But yeah, so I often used to cut the chicken breasts off of the chicken carcass, freeze those for the cats, and then give the dogs like a more leaner chicken. So that's something to bear in mind. And again, the best way of knowing whether they're getting too much meat is if the poos end up being a bit runny, then that's not enough of a bone to meat ratio. That's the way. So I definitely wouldn't panic over organs, apart from if they're inside the animal that you've got, then obviously then they'll eat them, and like I say, they're almost like treat food for mine, because that is what they go to eat first. So it is like a treat food for them. But as to if it's essential, I would say no. So some feeding options. I wanted to just talk about some feeding options, which we have already covered slightly, in that there's the meat day, fast day, meat day, fast day. That's a really good option. They're all really good options. It doesn't matter, it's what works for you. Then there's options of meat fast. So you would generally feed meat, then you would do your fast, and then give the meat time to exit the body before you then go feeding fruit. And then this is what people do, is so they do a meat day, then a fast day, and then they'll do a couple of days of fruit days, and then they'll bring back a meat day after that, and then they'll do a fast after that. So then you've only got 2 days a week where you're feeding meat, which again, from a vegan perspective, and looking after our fellow animal beings, that's a better way than feeding meat every day, says she. that is a kinder way to the planet. That is a kinder way to the planet. And yeah, and your dog will enjoy the variety, I'm sure. And it's easy. Fruit days are very easy if you don't like the whole cutting up meat and stuff. They're easy. You can just peel a banana, give them the banana. Sometimes you can chop it up, make a fruit salad for them. But you can make fruit day really easy. Like I give mine apples, and they take off the apple, and crunch, 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 and a pear, and they take the pear off, and yum, yum, yum. So yeah, so fruit days are really, really easy. But cost-wise, certainly in the UK, that it can work out really expensive. So you work out how it suits you and how it works with what you can get hold of and the cost of what you can get a hold of. But yeah, that's another protocol. And again, you can play around with that. So you could actually have, and I know people that do this as well, they have 2 meat days together, then they'll do a fast day, and then they'll do 2 fruit days, or even 3 fruit days, and then add the 2 meat days again. So you can really play around and have fun with it. And if you haven't bought meat, you've forgotten to buy some, or you've run out, then you can just use fruit. So yeah, you can really have fun with this type of feeding, and like I say, the dogs love the fruit, and they do so well on the fruit as well. It's really hydrating. So yeah, so that's that. Feeding options. Detox, we've talked about detox. Detox symptoms, like I say, we talked about those: the ears, the eyes, the skin, smelling. They could be diarrhea, there could be sickness. In the beginning, it's just however the body wants to get rid of whatever it's been storing. And then like I say, there are ways of speeding up detox and slowing down detox. So it's all fun. And then I did promise that I would no, let me just talk. So overfeeding, signs that you've overfed, then they're obviously as long as your arm, and each dog will exhibit it different. But the typical ones that I experience is that they will be uncomfortable. So when they've had the meal, there's an uncomfortableness. Now, Sky does really well with 1 big meal. And if I feed her twice a day, she will get me up in the night sometimes because she needs to go outside and pee. And yeah, and I can tell that doesn't work for her. She will have a bit of a smell to her even if I give her a tiny meal, because I always feel a bit mean if I'm feeding Joey and I don't feed her. But it's bitten me on the bum several times by giving in and giving her something little in the morning. And then, like I say, she just doesn't do well on 2 meals a day. That's Sky. Then Joey, he doesn't do well on a really big meal. He will very quickly be uncomfortable, and then he won't sit down, and he'll be bothering me, and and he's clearly not comfortable. So he's better with a smaller portions, but morning and then later in the afternoon. So they're all different, and you just have to, you will learn. And like I say, it's taken me, it's probably taken me this long to really nail it. So in the beginning, it's like, but I didn't have someone like me. I didn't have someone like me holding my hand, and I tell you, I would have loved it. Okay, so that's overfeeding. So other signs of overfeeding is scooting. If if they hump you, that's definitely a sign that they've probably been overfed. Shaking their head, itching. I could always tell with Joey if I'd overfed, because in the mornings I used to think it was normal that he'd wake up in the morning and scratch, 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 scratch. Now I don't get any scratching at all from either of them ever, unless I've overfed. Sky never exhibits overfeeding signs, except that uncomfortableness if I give her 2 meals. But Joey, yeah, and Joey will get gunk in his ears as well. So I always keep an eye, particularly at the moment when I am feeding more meat than I would, than I'm really comfortable with feeding, if I'm honest. But yeah, but I've got, yeah, it's just so convenient the way it works at the moment. So yeah, but I do watch, and he will get like bits of dirt in his ears, and then I know I'm overfeeding. So I think that's the overfeeding signs and symptoms that I can think of. But there's probably, again, other dogs will exhibit other ones, so don't think that that's the bottom of the list. And then treats, I did say that I was going to talk about treats. So again, this is where treats becomes a bit of a pain, and I certainly know from friends with dogs on this lifestyle, if they've got training issues or they're doing training things, you sometimes do have to compromise. For example, if you're training and you're trying to fast, and you need to feed treats to do whatever you're doing with training, then there's, you end up having to compromise. Now, as much as I compromise in that, if you're training, then that's important, and if it's important to you, then it's an important thing to include in the lifestyle. So treats, then you have to play around with, like say, you just have a very brief eating window where you did your training session and you'd feed a few treats, or if you're walking and you need treats for whatever reason as part of your walk, I would say I used to go around with a bag with all my treats in, all the dogs and the neighbours' dogs, and if on a walk, everybody was my best friend, because they could smell that I always felt fed very quality chicken breast as treats, and they would always smell me from a mile off. So I'd always have, and literally once I started fasting, I stopped all of that. And it was a risk, because like say, I thought, God, will the dogs come back to me? And I've had no problem whatsoever. And yeah, they generally just want to be around me. So even if they do run across a field after a pheasant or something, they're looking and come and find me like little radars. So I've never ever had any problem. And like I say, I used to always give them treats when we got back to the car, just so that they knew that was me, and we finished the walk, you got a treat, and in the car, and that's it, over until the next walk. But that also, and so that was the hardest thing to break. But I stopped it when I wanted to do fasting with them. I stopped all treats, and I didn't notice any real the behavior didn't change. In fact, it got better with the better diet. So I didn't need treats. But if you are, then I would say cut up bits of chicken and put them in the lowest temperature in your oven, and just stick them in there on a very, very cool, as cool as it is. That dehydrates the meat, so it's not actually cooking the meat, it's dehydrating. And then, like say, store that in a plastic or in a container in the fridge, or freeze them. You can batch them and then freeze them, and then just take out what you need. And they're really good, obviously, and very attractive, very, very attractive treats. The other option when you're doing fruit days is you can dehydrate fruit and use that. Be careful with dehydrated fruit, because from my experience of eating dehydrated, dried fruit, it's really dehydrating. So yeah, so just keep it to treats, and keep treats as treats. But definitely don't opt for any of the rubbish that's in the supermarkets, it's just junk that's in those. I call them plastic treats when I'm out with friends and they're still feeding them to their dogs. So yeah, avoid them like the plague, and stick with homemade nice healthy treats, and like I say, ultimately aim to not use them at all. and let your bodies, but between meals, just let your dog's body rest. Okay, so that's my list there of the questions. That's done. So now I'm going to, and it will be brief because it's 7:15 already. So I'm going to just talk to you about the other steps of the 9-step course, that the whole program of the holistic lifestyle, of how I've got it. So step 1 is the what I call pet food challenge, and that basically you'll learn what ingredients go into kibble, tinned food, dehydrated food, raw food, and treats. So you have a clear roadmap of what you can feed your dog for optimal health. So if you know what goes into the commercial stuff, then you know whether or not you're prepared to feed that to your dog. And we like to say, and we'll then roadmap what is optimal for feeding to your dog. You'll uncover what causes disease in dogs and put the steps in place to ensure you can confidently make the right choices for your dog without the need for vets or nutritional specialists, based on proven formulas with real dogs living into old age with vibrant health. So that's my testimony. We then go on to step 2. I call it the mental fitness game. So you will get crystal clear on the mindset you need to achieve long-term success in every area of your life. Going through this process with your dog will change you. There'll be beliefs and things like fasting that really is a stamina builder, mental stamina builder, emotional stamina builder, and you definitely become stronger internally as a result of that. And the same with this whole lifestyle, because there will be times where people will question what you're doing, whether it be your partner, whether it be family, whether it be people that you're out walking with. They will question you, but from my experience, like I say, it was a very quick transition, and you could literally, there was very little people could say because they watched my dogs transform in front of them. So you won't have to. But vets, that's a whole different experience, because the vet's whole training is based on assuming that you're like Joe average, and you haven't got the intelligence to know, read up and do any of your own homework. And so they are trained to control you throughout the whole process of going into the vets. And heaven forbid you question, or I go in and actually say, this is what I'm prepared for you to do, and this is what I'm not prepared for you to do. And you know, and I've actually had some vets say, you know, then they don't want to deal with me, and that's fine. I'll leave them. But I know, like I say, I've heard of sneaky things where they take them out the back and give them vaccinations. They take them out the back, give them antibiotics. I've strictly said when they've had, like Sty had to have cruciate operation because she'd chased something wild, and she completely ruptured her back leg that was on this diet, and she ended up having to have an operation. And I did specifically say to them I didn't want any antibiotics and things, but they ignored me. And yeah, so and I just, you know, when it's done, it's done. There's nothing you can do. But there is this mental strength that you need, and this inner strength that you need to navigate the world when you want to do things slightly different to the norm with your dog. But you will know, I promise you, by 90 days of doing the course, or doing the program with me, you will know without any shadow of doubt that you're doing what's right, and they just want to make some money, and not necessarily in the dog's best interests. So and it doesn't matter how much you try and tell them, they will not buy in, and the evidence is right in front of them, but they still won't. That's still not right. So that's fine. So again, you will identify your barriers, and hang on, let me get that crystal clear on the mindset you need to achieve long-term success in every area of your life. You will learn what holds most people back from achieving optimal health for their dog, and we will identify your specific barriers and give you the tools to break through those limits, so you can not only achieve optimal health for your dog, but success in your relationships, success in your career, success in your financials, and your health for yourself as well, and your family, of course. Okay, step 3 is no more vet bills. So this step helps you to identify and learn how disease is caused in your dog's body. I've given you overview over these days, but we obviously go a lot more deeper. We cover each of these for a whole week. So you really get clear on what causes disease, the root cause of disease, and we can learn to stop creating the problems and start to build, and start to build a lifetime. There's outside. All right. Okay. Hang on. Let me come and see. You really clever. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, you will learn to understand the terrain model of disease and how using this method will change your concept of disease from a death sentence to symptoms signposting you to make changes to optimize your dog's health. No more expensive vet visits will be needed. You will learn the art of watching your dog's body for signs and symptoms, and we will show you what they all mean and how to correct them without any overwhelm or doubts. A compass you can 100% rely on. That's No More Vet Bills, section 3. Your dog is a wolf. We've obviously touched on that subject throughout these days. This is a whole section. So we're going to investigate your dog's physiology, and we'll go into that in huge detail. In the workbook, the free workbook I've given you, there are actually some charts, and you can actually look at how the different animals eat and how their physiology is designed to eat what they're designed to eat. So that's good. But anyway, so we go this section, you learn what the ideal species specific diet for your dog really is. Then we can find and provide the optimal food. We uncover the various diets for the different species, including carnivores, herbivores, frugivores and omnivores, paying particular attention to how wildlife instinctively know what they are meant to eat, and they do not divert from their natural diets. And therefore we do not see overweight or diseased animals when they are in their natural surroundings and have access to their correct foods. We will use the information that we learn to create the optimal diet for your dog, so you can learn to feed the perfect foods for lifelong vibrant wellness and enjoy many years together with worry-free, uncompromisable health. That's step 4. Step 5, find your power with the optimal feeding routines. Again, we've touched on these too. This step is true power to this whole feeding system. You're going to learn a crystal clear pathway to optimize the timing that you feed your dog for optimal health, optimal digestion, optimal energy, and optimal lifespan without overwhelm or confusion. There truly is a way to time your feeding sessions with your dog that will make a real difference to their quality of life. We're going to teach you in this section how to know when that perfect timing is and how to confidently play around with feeding times to truly benefit you and your dog. We will also dive into emotional feeding and how to recognize emotional feeding and how to become the master over your emotions so you can focus on doing what is best for your dog's well-being from a pragmatic, clear-minded, well-informed dog lover perspective. Find your true power. Your dog is your mirror. Now this one really is, and it's a whole section, and again I may even take 2 weeks to cover this, but it's your dog is a mirror, and I'm really going to just read this, but it's really deep. It's understanding your dogs on an energetic level. So I'll just read this. This step will bond you and your dog like never before. You are going to learn to read the powerful messages and lessons your dog is here to teach you with absolute clarity. Your dog has chosen you for a specific reason. On an energetic level, you are both drawn together because your energy is synchronized. Your dog is able to read you like no other living being. You are going to learn how to read those energies and understand the messages that your dog will always be mirroring to you. Understanding the messages that your dog is sharing with you will improve and strengthen your life on all levels, including physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This will lead to huge shifts in your life, including your dog's health, obviously, together with your home life, finances, relationship and career. So it is fascinating, and I will go into that in major detail. I'll tell you the stories that Joey and Sky have helped me to understand about me. And anyway, but that is a whole, what are we now? We're 7:25. That would be a whole day at least, just touching the surface. So but it's a beautiful subject. Step 7 we've covered big time. It's the ultimate energy diet, and you guys obviously have got that one off to a T now, I hope. But again, we'll dive deeper into each of those sections, and we'll go through it again as part of the course, and we'll understand it on a whole nother level. We've just touched the surface. So this step, we will learn to create the perfect meal plan for phenomenal health results for your dog. And remember, something to know is that one meal plan will work now, and in a couple of months' time you'll be adjusting and tweaking that. So you will learn the art of reading your dog and what your dog's body and what your dog's body needs food wise, and you like I say, you'll know how to do that. This is the step we've been waiting for. You will get clear on what to feed your dog, how to source the food at the best prices, how to buy the best quality foods, and in portion sizes that you can feed your dog without any preparation. We will discuss all the food options, how to prepare your dog for a smooth transition to a new diet without any tummy upset or discomfort. You will confidently know how much to feed and how to bulk buy and freeze, so you always have a constant supply of food available for your dog, saving you loads of money on dog food every week. Together with when we get this right, it will save you a fortune on dog food every week, together with a healthy, vibrant dog that you will never ever need to worry about again, because they will exude health and well-being from head to toe every day without ever needing to see the vet. Step 8, the perfect transition system. This step will show you a perfect clear pathway to confidently reverse disease and regenerate your dog without side effects. We will start by exploring the world of detox symptoms that dogs can experience, and we will celebrate any signs of healing as they come along on the journey that we take together. Back to vibrant health and vitality. No matter how old or diseased your dog may be at this point in time, there's no dog that can't benefit from this system. We will learn and implement the steps to a smooth transition so both you and your dog can enjoy the process back to health. You will learn the benefits of adding fasting days to your weekly protocol and how to strategically use fasting to dramatically speed up the healing process. There is a secret art to fasting, and you will leave with the confidence and skills to utilize fasting for a lifetime of optimal health for your dog. If you want to gain one skill from this course that can heal your dog, this is it. Strategically fasting your dog is the magic key to unlock the door for lifelong optimal health. It is the magic key, but the other stuff all goes in. So it is the magic key. You can really change up the health, but you need the other stuff in place. Like, you can't feed kibble and then just stick a fasting day in once a week, because that isn't going to do it. Okay, and then the last section, step 9, is the perfect menu plan. This step will show you how to confidently choose from a variety of foods to feed your dog for optimal comfort, especially in hot or cold weather. We will dive into foods for optimal weight loss or weight gain. This is the art of using the correct foods for optimal health on another level, giving you the tools to tailor your dog's feeding routine to achieve optimal lifestyle balance and convenience for you and your dog. We will explore the skills needed to travel with your dog without hours of preparing and storing meals for the trip. This section will also include details of any supplements, herbs, special shampoos, creams, lotions, fleas, ticks, worm treatments. You will leave with the knowledge, skills and confidence to manage your dog's ongoing health, whatever the circumstances, without the need to consult a vet. So that's all the steps. This is a powerful journey. Together we will join hands to create the health that your pets deserve. I'm here to show you how, with the right knowledge and step-by-step roadmap tailored to your specific lifestyle and needs, we can transform your pets to the ultimate vibrant, healthy, high energy beings they are born to be. Join me for a call so we can take the next step on your journey. So that's where we're at now. I would love to work with you, and especially with your dog, and I would love to help you transform that dog from where you are now, which may not be sick, it may just be not optimally healthy, and you may just want to learn a lifestyle. If you've got a puppy, for example, oh wow, now will be the time to start understanding all of these skills and strategies, so that you can give that pup a lifelong, a life full of just joy and fun, and and comfort, and he will go on to live forever without vets, without ever needing to use a vet. And yeah, I've often wondered that would be me getting a puppy now and taking it, throughout its whole life, rather than messing them up for 4 years before I found this. But anyway, we're where we are. We are where we are. So yeah, so wherever you are, we can still take your dog to a new level, and you'll enjoy the whole process. You'll enjoy learning. We have 3 levels that you can choose to join. So that's basically that finished there. I've done the questions, I've done that, done that. So yeah, so we have, if you would like to take your dog to the next level, then definitely we need to get on a call, and we can chat through the options that we provide. I've got 3 different levels. I call it, number 1 is the success level, which is basically where you want to do a lot of it yourself. You just want to have the information, and I mean, you'll still be with us from, I've set it up as a 10-week process on that option, and you still have the community if you want to join in the community that we've got, where we interact and we share all our experiences. And if you're having, we celebrate your breakthroughs, and as things, as you experience change in your dog, and yeah, it's just really, really nice to be going through the process with people that are also other people that are also going through the process, and cheering each other on. And then you learn things from what they're doing with their dog and works, and you can then try those things with your dog. So it really is nice having people walking the same path with you. So we've got that. If there's a community, and then obviously I tend to work with you at the beginning and do an assessment, and then just get you mapped out for that, for those first few weeks, with a feeding protocol based on the results that you want to achieve. So that's that. But other than that, you go along the 9 process with the information, and you go along at your own speed and your own time, with the community to support you. Then we've got the mastery level, where there's a lot more one-on-ones involved in that one, and then we do another level, which is limitless level, and that basically throws in a limitless one-on-one. So all of them, you have access to me 24/7 with WhatsApp text messaging. So if there's ever a time where you wake up in the night and something strange has happened, you can ring me. I don't mind. I will be up. I'll hear you, and I'll be up, and I'll be on the end of the phone, and I'll talk you through it. And yeah, so you've got me on all of them 24/7 pretty much, but the limitless obviously has got me one-on-one as often. I literally am walking the walk with you. So that is our top of the range creme de la creme. And yeah, boy, would I have done anything to have had that at the beginning. And if you've got more than one dog like I do, it's even better value. So yeah, so my first suggestion, if you do want to work with me, is let's book a call. You can email me at karen@dogsdiscovery.co.uk. We'll have a chat. We'll find out where you are, what results you're looking for, and then we'll talk as to which is the best level for you to go, as to what will work best for you. Okay, so It's been an absolute pleasure. It really, really has, sharing this information. It just makes my heart sing. And yeah, it would make my heart sing even louder to be able to share that and see your dog transform over a period of 90 days, or however long you wanted to have the hand holding. Okay, so I'll say goodbye, and yeah, it's Karen at dogsdiscovery.co.uk. Just say you'd like to book a call, give me an idea of the times and days that you're available, and then I'll send you back my times and days options, and we'll get you booked in and we'll talk it through. And I look forward to very much most of you coming to join me. Bye for now. Thank you.